Hello everyone, welcome back to học tiếng Anh với Joseph. Building vocabulary, practicing pronunciation through reading. Hôm nay chúng ta sẽ đọc cuốn The Cat in the Box. Câu chuyện số 4 nói về Andreas Vesalius or Vesalius. Dissecting the human body. The scientific renaissance began in the middle part of the 16th century, and a significant marker is the year 1543, when Copernicus published his famous book on the revolution of celestial bodies, displacing the Earth from its supposed special position in the universe. And Andreas Vesalius published the Humani Corporis Fabrica on the structure of the human body, going some way toward displacing humankind from a supposed special position in the animal world. Copernicus' story is well known, but he did not, strictly speaking, carry out experiments. But Vesalius is less well known and deserves more attention than he often gets. He did carry out experiments on human bodies. Vesalius was born in Brussels in 1514, but carried out his important work at the University of Padua, where he was professor of anatomy in the late 1530s and early 1540s. Before that time, when human dissections were carried out, which was not very often, the actual cutting was done by barber surgeons, who were little more, arguably less, than butchers. The professor would stand at a safe distance, literally without getting dirty, and lecture to students about what was being uncovered, using imagination as well as actual evidence. Vesalius changed all that. He carried out the dissections himself, showing as well as telling students what was going on, and developing a much better understanding of the human body. He was helped by the civil authorities in Padua, in particular the judge Marcantonio Contarini, who not only supplied him with bodies of executed criminals, but would time the executions to fit in with Vesalius' need for a fresh cadaver, for a lecture. This was in marked contrast to his time as a student in Paris, where Vesalius, like his fellow medical students, had been reduced to grave robbing to get specimens for his studies. Before Vesalius, the accepted understanding of human anatomy had been handed down since ancient times, and was based on the work of the Romano-Greek physician Claudius Galenus, known as Galen. In the Middle Ages in Europe, it was thought that the ancients had been much wiser than contemporary people, and that they had superior knowledge that could not be emulated, much less exceeded. But this was wrong. Galen was an enthusiastic dissector, but most of his work was carried out on dogs, pigs, and monkeys, because human dissections was infra dig in the 2nd century in CE. So his description of the human body was often wildly inaccurate. The big contribution Vesalius made was not just to improve the understanding of human anatomy, but to stress the importance of using the evidence in front of you and your own experiments to find things out, instead of relying on the supposedly superior wisdom of the ancients. This, of course, echoed what was happening in astronomy at the same time. Vesalius, who once wrote, "I am not accustomed to saying anything with certainty after only one or two observations," used to carry out parallel dissections in which an animal body and a human body are dissected side by side to highlight the anatomical differences between them, explicitly correcting Galen's errors. Vesalius also used highly skilled artists to prepare large diagrams to use in his lectures, a 16th century equivalent of PowerPoint, and 6 of these were published as Tabulae Anatomica Sects, 6 anatomical pictures, in 1538. He drew 3 of these illustrations himself, but the other 3 were made by John Stephen of Calca, a pupil of Titian. Stephen is also thought to have been the main illustrator for Vesalius' masterwork, the Fabrica, which appeared in 7 volumes in 1543. But Vesalius' pioneering activity did not stop there. The Fabrica was a book for experts, the professors and doctors. In order to make his work accessible to students and even to educated laymen, he produced alongside it and published in the same year a summary officially titled De Humani Corporis Fabrica Librorum Epitome, abridgment of the structure of the human body, but known as the Epitome. And all that before he was 30. He then gave up teaching and spent the rest of his career practicing medicine as a court physician, first to the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, and then to Charles' son, Philip II of Spain, who later sent the Spanish Armada against England. This change of career may have been caused by the opposition to his ideas from some of his peers, even in Padua. Jacobus Silvius, a physician of the old school based in Paris, said that Vesalius was mad and that any advance of anatomical knowledge beyond Galen's was impossible. It was more likely, he said, that not that Galen was wrong, but that the human body had changed since his time. In 1543, science still had a long way to go. The end of the 4th story, story number 4. We can go to examine just some of the terms that I think is useful to know. Dissection, mổ xẻ, dissecting. We stressed sect, dissection. Fresh cadaver, that's xác chết mới, xác người mới chết. Fresh cadaver. Contemporary. Enthusiastic. Enthusiasm. Enthusiastic. Anatomical. Anatomy. So here, the word anatomical, we stressed the sound ta. But here, anatomy, we stress the second syllable, anatomy. All right, right now, I have a little clip, about 5 minutes long, made by the BBC, which is quite interesting. Enjoy.
Picture the scene. It's 1536, a criminal has been hung and left to rot on the gibbet. One evening, along comes Vesalius. He is a 22-year-old medical student. He looks up at the corpse with longing. Body snatching is illegal, but that does not deter him. Vesalius jumps up, grabs the bottom of the legs and pulls. With a terrible ripping sound, they come off in his hands. He runs away into the night, clutching them in his arms. What Vesalius was doing was extraordinarily dangerous. Not only was he risking jail and personal ruin, he was challenging long-established ideas.
At Vesalius' medical school, there was just one set of anatomical textbooks, written by Claudius Galen. Not only had they been written 1300 years before, but they were also largely based on animals, like pigs and apes. Aged just 22, Vesalius decided to do something that would have outraged and disgusted his contemporaries: dissect and examine a human body himself.
Undeterred by the rotting human flesh on his kitchen table, Vesalius now began to strip the corpse down to its bare bones. He treats it rather like making beef stock. First of all, he gets a big pan of water and he sets it to boil. Then he gets the bits of his corpse and removes as much skin and flesh as he can, and he drops those bits into the pan. He boils away for hours until the whole thing falls apart. You wonder what the neighbors must have thought. Now, Vesalius had set himself one hell of a task. There are 206 bones in the human body, and when I was a medical student, I could name pretty well each and every one of them. These days, I think I'd struggle.
Bone by bone, he painstakingly tried to identify every single part of the human skeleton and put the jigsaw back together again.
This is clearly a femur, but what this is, I couldn't begin to tell you. For Vesalius, though, this was just the start. He now wanted to map every organ, every ligament, every muscle in the human body.
He was determined to understand how the whole thing fitted together.
To do this, he needed more bodies. So naturally, he stole them. In fact, he stole them from the same place that all these bodies came from, the cemeteries of Paris.
Dr. Alice Roberts teaches anatomy to surgeons. She's dissected many bodies.
Hello, Alice.
Oh, hello.
Hello. You're about to start?
Yes, just about to open up the abdomen.
Do we, no, perhaps not.
This woman donated her body because she wanted to help students learn anatomy. To prevent decay, she's been preserved in embalming fluid, a luxury Vesalius did not have. We're now doing what Vesalius did and others did not do: examine a body for ourselves. It's strange to think of him obsessively chopping away in a dark basement. And what was it that Vesalius was challenging? The work of Claudius Galen. I've got here a modern copy of the book that dominated Western medicine for so very long.
What Galen says about the kidney, which I think you're coming to, is proper to understand the usefulness of the way in which the kidneys are placed. That is the reason why the right one is higher up and attached to the liver itself, and the left one is lower than the right.
No.
No.
No, there's the lower pole, the bottom of the left kidney just there.
Yep.
And there's the lower pole of the right kidney.
Okay, figure's completely wrong.
Is this body wrong or is the book wrong?
And the answer is?
And the answer is, this can't be wrong.
Yeah.
Because this is real, this is real. You know, this is actual anatomy.
The location of the kidneys is just one of Galen's many glaring errors. But what I'm surprised by isn't so much that Galen got it wrong, but he went unchallenged for so long. Until Vesalius. When Vesalius announced that much of what the great god Galen had written was incorrect, and that 1,300 years of medical teaching was seriously flawed, he became extremely unpopular. In all, Andreas Vesalius corrected over 200 of Galen's mistakes.
Vesalius correctly identified the location of all the major organs, nerves, and muscles in the human body. Finally, after 1,300 years of stagnation, anatomy and therefore surgery had taken a giant leap forward.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the presentation today, and I'll see you in the next story. Bye for now.